October 8th of 2019, a man named Rocky Chhean is behind the wheel of a big truck on Route 81 in Virginia. His truck leaves the road, hits a guardrail, then an embankment, and then hits a bridge pillar. Rocky was 45 years old, and he died at the scene. The next day, his daughter-in-law opened a GoFundMe donation page. The goal was $10,000, just enough to bury him. 86 strangers donated what they could. The family raised $4,922, but had to close it way short of the goal. Rocky drove for a company named GoldCoast Logistics, a trucking empire with 350 trucks on the road and a safety record that reads like a criminal indictment. His employer never filed a workman's compensation death claim for Rocky's family, never paid the burial benefit that the Illinois state law required, and 5.5 years after Rocky died in one of their trucks, someone signed Rocky's name on a legal document and made him the legal president of that same company. Not as a tribute, not as a memorial, but as a shield that was designed so that lawyers and federal regulators couldn't find someone to hold responsible and accountable. We're going to get into it, tell you all about it, but first, let me show you how it all started. If you've never heard the name Dragos Sprinceana, you're about to, because what he built, how he ran it, and how he walked away from it is one of the most thoroughly documented cases of corporate fraud, regulatory failure, and human cost ever recorded in American trucking industry. 150 crashes, 10 people dead, 86 people injured, nearly $900,000 in federal fines, all unpaid, and a paper trail that leads from a dead driver's GoFundMe page all the way to a private dinner at Mar-a-Lago with the head of the U.S. Secret Service. This is part one of a two-part investigation. By the end of this video, you understand exactly how a man ran a dangerous trucking operation into the ground and then walked away richer than when he started. And in part two, we follow the money to places that will make your blood boil. Whether you have ever been in or around a tractor trailer in your life or not, this will open your eyes up. Let's get into it. Dragos Sprinceana is the founder, sole officer, sole director, and sole shareholder of a company called DMG Consulting and Development, operating under the brand name GoldCoast Logistics Group out of Elgin, Illinois. A California court confirmed in his own deposition he was the whole show. One man, one operation, one set of accountability. No board of directors to point fingers at, no safety committee to blame, no VP of anything, just him. At its peak, his company had 350 trucks on the road and 334 drivers, hauling freight across the country. The federal agency that regulates commercial truck driving in the United States, the FMCSA, opened two separate enforcement cases against his company, GoldCoast Logistics. Here's what they found. Drivers operating without a valid CDL, which is a commercial driver's license. Drivers running past their legal hours of service, behind the wheel when federal law says they should be parked. And in another case, a separate second case, a driver with a known positive drug test was put behind the wheel of the truck anyway. Federal law is absolutely clear on these types of violations. You cannot do it. Well, he did it anyway. And in his own deposition, under oath, Sprinceana admitted that there was no probationary period for new drivers, no logbook monitoring, nobody assigned to make sure federal safety regulations were being followed. And this is a company with 350 trucks and 334 drivers on public roads. The fine on the first enforcement case alone was $791,000. The second case added another $97,000 to the fine. The grand total of the fine? $889,000. And you know how much he paid it at? Not a dime, not a penny. 90 days after the final order, nothing. So the FMCSA did what the law allowed. They issued a second out-of-service order for non-payment, and this on top of the first out-of-service order that they had issued for an unsatisfactory safety rating, which is the federal government's way of saying This company is unfit to have trucks on public roads. 2 out-of-service orders, operating authority canceled. Done. Except it wasn't done. Because the federal crash database shows incidents involving Gold Coast trucks continuing in 2024. 352 days after the federal government declared his company unfit to operate, one of their trucks showed up in another crash, this time in Pennsylvania. Needless to say, the trucks were ordered off the road once again. However, once again, some of the trucks apparently didn't get the memo, or more accurately, nobody made sure they got the memo. Here's how stuff like that happens. Here's how a man keeps trucks rolling after the government shuts him down. Here's how he avoided everyone trying to serve him with court notifications. How he avoided every creditor, every regulator who came looking for him. Here's his secret sauce. Sprinceana didn't build just one company. He built 8 separate corporate entities, each one with its own registered address, each one with a different family member or associate listed on the paperwork. Virtual office addresses in Illinois, Florida, Arizona. When court process servers showed up, nobody was there. Didn't know where to serve him. His fleet manager would accept legal documents on his behalf because Sprinceana himself was, and I'm quoting direct from the court record here, often not at the building. And while all this was happening, outside carriers who hauled freight for Gold Coast brokerage got stiffed, never got paid. Gold Coast collected the shipper's payment and never paid them, the carriers who actually moved the freight. This is not a billing dispute. This is theft by corporate structure. This happened to real people running real trucks, trying to make an honest living in this industry. I want to stop here for a second because whether you drive a truck or not, run a small business, or just share the highway with a big truck on your daily commune, what I just described affects you directly. Whether you believe it or not, it does affect you directly. Every time a carrier out there like Gold Coast operates without real consequences, 3 things happen. Dangerous trucks stay on the roads that you and your family drive on, side by side. Every honest carrier out there trying to do the right thing gets undercut because you cannot compete with someone who isn't paying their safety bills or paying the carriers that they owe money to. You can't compete against other ones like that. And it proves to every bad actor watching that the system can be gamed indefinitely. Here's what I need you to hear. The information that could have stopped this was publicly available the entire time. The FMCSA website is free. An unsatisfactory safety rating is public record. Any broker after August 27th of 2023 knew or should have known they were dealing with a federally declared unfit carrier with an unsatisfactory safety record. It's not hindsight at all. This is a free website, and 30 seconds of due diligence could have put a stop to a lot of people hurt on the road. I'm putting links to those free tools in the description below this video. Until then, share them with every owner-operator, every small carrier you know, because the only thing that changes this pattern is when enough people know how to see it when it comes down the highway right at them. Real quick, if this story is making you angry, and it should, hit that subscribe button right now, because part 2 of this investigation goes places I genuinely did not expect when I started digging into this story. We're going to follow Dragos Sprinceana from a dead driver's GoFundMe page all the way to a private dinner table at Mar-a-Lago. We're going to talk about foreign governments, political donations, and a nonprofit with a Washington, D.C. address that turned out to be a mailbox. Subscribe now so you won't miss it. Now, let's finish this. Rocky Chhean drove for Dragos Sprinceana's company August 8th of 2019. He dies in one of Sprinceana's trucks on Route 81 in Virginia. His family buries him on GoFundMe because no workers' compensation death claim was ever filed. Now here's where this goes from tragic to something that requires a different word entirely. March 21st of 2025, 5.5 years after Rocky Chhean died, somebody filed a form with the Illinois Secretary of State, a standard change form. It removes Dragos Sprinceana of DMG Consulting and put Rocky Chhean's name on it. The address listed as the company's old terminal property, a building Sprinceana had already sold a year and a half prior to that, a building he no longer owns or controls. The signature line on that form has Rocky Chhean's name, and under the signature line, it clearly states, filed under penalty of perjury. Rocky Chhean died October 8th of 2019, so he obviously did not file that form in 2025. Somebody else did. Somebody else signed his name to it. Here's why that matters to everyone watching this. Not just people in the trucking industry. The registered agent is the person designated by law to receive legal documents on behalf of a company. Lawsuits, subpoenas, federal regulatory notices. If you cannot serve the registered agent, you cannot serve the company. You cannot collect a judgment. You cannot hold anybody accountable or responsible. A dead man at an address no longer belongs to the company is the perfect legal dead end. Rocky Chhean, 6 years after his death, is still listed on the Illinois Secretary of State's corporate record today, right now. His daughter-in-law raised $4,922 on the internet to give him a funeral. And right now, today, his name is being used as a legal shield by the man who never paid what the law required. I've been in this industry for over 30 plus years, and I can tell you right now, I have never seen anything documented quite like this. Here's where Gold Coast stands right now. 15 active lawsuits across 5 states. A federal bank case naming Sprinceana personally, and a yacht holding company. The man couldn't pay $900,000 in federal safety fines, was apparently parking assets in a super yacht entity down in South Florida. A California court denied his attempt to escape a personal injury trial. A judge found sufficient evidence that he deliberately structured his company to avoid paying victims, and creditors caught him attempting to transfer a Rolls Royce into his wife's name to keep it away from collectors. This guy was down and dirty, no doubt about it. Every time someone came looking, there's another wall, another shell, another address that led nowhere. And here's what makes part 2 of this story something I genuinely could not have predicted when I started digging into it. While the FMCSA was trying to collect funds, while carriers were waiting on freight payments from Sprinceana, while Rocky Chhean's family was short on funeral money, Dragos Sprinceana was writing checks to politicians. Over $130,000 in campaign contributions. And those checks bought him access to places that his federal compliance record should have never allowed him to be. We're talking about dinner at Mar-a-Lago with the director of the United States Secret Service and the sitting secretary of Homeland Security. Think about that. We're talking about a private meeting with the incoming National Security Advisor 7 days before he took office. We're talking about an unofficial diplomatic mission conducted on behalf of a foreign government with no legal registration ever filed with the United States government. And we're talking about what happens when a man with 10 deaths on his safety record gets close to power, and that power doesn't even know who's sitting next to it. That is part 2, and it drops next. Make sure you're subscribed. And if this story made you angry, share it. Put it in front of every driver, in front of every owner-operator, every dispatcher, every safety manager you know. Put it in front of people who've never been near a truck in their life, because this story belongs to everybody out there. The only thing that changes this industry, the only thing that changes any of this, is when enough people refuse to look away and decide to speak up. I'm Jim Campbell. Drive safe out there.